Alrighty everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great day so far, having a great Wednesday, it should be. Let's see who we have here in the chat. I'm going to switch over to the chat. That's probably what I should start doing right here. There we go. Let's see. We got Misty. We have Critty, Ben. Let's see. Go down a little bit. We have Maury, Cruz, Larry, Bond, Rainbow Obsidian, Catman. Let's see. Team Pain. And everyone else who is in the chat who I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're just now tuning in or may not be chatting, glad to have you in here. And yeah, let's go ahead. And I'm going to make sure everything's good. We are good to go. Hold on just a second. I'm going to move my mic a little bit further back because I'm maxing out on my dB, not my dBz, my decibels, not my dBz is in rainfall. All right, everything looks good here. I did update that before I went live because I had time this time. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about and partially covering Hurricane Erin here. Still a Category 2 hurricane on a strengthening trend, expected to be a major hurricane tonight. So we are anticipating a major hurricane at the 8 p.m. advisory here in about an hour and a half from now. And could have sustained wind speeds right around 115 to 120 miles per hour. Recon is currently on their way. They're about halfway now. Took off from about the Mobile, Alabama area, and they are now past Florida, so they are in the far western Atlantic now. So they're about halfway through their journey, going to the center of Erin here. So let's switch on over to our current radar imagery here. So this is what we're looking at across the southeastern portions of North Carolina. We've got three main heavy bands associated on the northwest quadrant of Erin. Now, none of these are really that intense at the moment. Isolated lightning with them, but really not anything too crazy with them at the moment. But if any of these do make landfall, so to say, move from the ocean onto land, then they will be bringing potentially tropical storm force wind speeds and wind gusts as high as 75 miles per hour as they move more onshore. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on these bands to see if they can get onshore. If they get onshore, we could see some locally higher winds and wind gusts across the Outer Banks. Main time frame for impacts to begin was about 30 minutes ago. 6 p.m. was really when stuff was going to start popping off. We started seeing a lot more reports. We've gotten a lot of reports of storm inundation. There's been some beach erosion. Sandbags have already been breached across much of the Outer Banks. Highway 12 has been shut down now. There is an island completely shut down to the public right now. So if you're in this area, this is the island completely shut down. There's no way in, there's no way out. If you're still there after the evacuation order, you're stuck. So that entire highway is now officially closed. They closed that down at 5:30 p.m. They stopped running the ferry at 5:30 p.m. So everything is being shut down. Everything's being closed. The final preparations are finished. And the crews out there, they are actively working their hardest to keep Highway 12 open. But we're having some big time waves push over those dunes, through the sandbags, and even onto the highways. So Highway 12 will continue to be closed in portions along the Outer Banks. Like I said, this entire section of Highway 12 is already closed, and the ferry has they're already done. They're already done their last run. Their last run was at 5:30 Eastern. Highway shut down just at that time as well. Now, this portions of this Highway 12 still open. However, it is beginning to flood. We've seen a lot of reports right around this area, right near the Cape Hatteras Motel, of Highway 12 being flooded over. There's been significant flash flooding, storm inundation, storm surge, high waves. Waves have breached the dunes and the sandbags, all near the Cape Hatteras Motel area. That's where the majority of our reports today have been from, right in, like I said, right in the Cape Hatteras Motel region. So we're going to continue to watch that very, very closely and see how that unfolds. I did just notice, I looked at chat and saw something. I want to call that out. It was a mistake on Twitter from a very well-known creator, and multiple creators, actually, multiple people. So if we go up here to Canada, you can see a tornado watch is in effect up here in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. You click on it, and you can see this is a potentially or rather, this is a dangerous and potentially life-threatening situation. Here in the United States, we call that PDS, a particularly dangerous situation. They are very, very rare. Here in Canada, it is a very common occurrence. Every tornado watch issued in Canada, you'll see these three little kind of hashtag symbols here, number symbols, whatever you may want to call them. And that means that it is a copy and paste. It is not a PDS tornado watch. It is not like what we do here in the United States. It is nothing special. It is an ordinary tornado watch up in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Canada. So please just know that Canada doesn't do those PDS tornado watches. I've seen a couple people get confused with them. I got confused with them once. People told me, hey, PDS doesn't exist up here. And I was like, oh, okay. Figures, it's Canada. Figures. So no PDS tornado watch in effect. However, if we do see tornadoes inside the watch area, yeah, they could be dangerous and potentially life-threatening. So that is why they have the PDS type wording, but it's not actually a PDS tornado watch. So just a heads up there, Canada does not issue PDS tornado watches like what we do here in the US. But yeah, let me go ahead and switch over to satellite imagery here. So this is what Erin actively looks like. We have seen a bit of weakening on satellite imagery. Now, this has not been reflected by the National Hurricane Center, but we have seen some weakening now as Erin is undergoing an eyewall replacement cycle. So we are seeing an eyewall replacement cycle occur tonight. Once it is finished, likely, this might be the, this is the 2 a.m. update now, I've figured. So yeah, likely over the next 6 hours or so, 4 to 6 hours, it's going to be maintaining that high in Category 2 status. Once it's done that eyewall replacement cycle between 2 5 a.m. Eastern Time, it will intensify to a Category 3 hurricane, and then it will stay a Category 3 hurricane probably throughout much of the day tomorrow until it finally weakens back into a Category 2 hurricane either tomorrow night or into Friday morning, and then from there on out, it is going to rapidly weaken until eventually it becomes an extratropical system well off into the far northern Atlantic, parallel of Ireland and the UK. Already having issues with the SBC. See that gap at the top left? It ain't supposed to be there. There you go. So tornadoes not going to be a problem today. I also wanted to mention that we are under a general thunderstorm risk across the extreme eastern portions of NC, southeastern Virginia. But tornadoes are not going to be a problem. I wouldn't even say, I really don't even think a single tornado is possible today across eastern North Carolina. I don't see any strong enough storms making their way from the ocean onto North Carolina in order to bring that water spout to eventually tornado risk. So not expecting any tornadoes today in Eastern NC. But if you haven't already noticed here, we do have those tropical storm warnings have been expanded decently north to the Maryland and Virginia border. No longer tropical storm watches. So we've had all the watches we had returned to warnings, and all the storm surge watches we had the other day returned to warnings yesterday. So the tropical storm warnings were recently watches earlier this afternoon, and then they just got updated. It was either the 11 o'clock update, somewhere between 11 and 5. I don't know exactly when. Either 11 a.m., somewhere between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. Those were upped to tropical storm warnings. Now, the worst of the impacts still expected to be in here. This is where we're expecting those worst impacts from Erin. So if you take a look here, I want to loop this so that way you can see it. I want to kind of loop the... Let's see. What's the best one to loop? I'm going to do the clean infrared satellite imagery here. So these, obviously, main hurricane eye is located generally right there, moving off to the northeast now. So on that newest frame, it's a little bit further north, somewhere up in here. So as obviously the hurricane rotates like hurricanes do because they're low pressures, it's throwing all this water up and over into North Carolina. So gradually that storm surge is going to get even worse and worse. It will most likely be the worst. Probably about 4 or 5 a.m. will be the absolute worst tomorrow morning. So it begins now. You know, we're already having, like I said, significant storm surge, very high waves. But the worst of it won't actually be until the complete overnight hours, very late tonight into early tomorrow morning, as this system pulls a little bit north. So once your low pressure is right here, that's when your main winds are going to be pushing up against North Carolina, and that's when your winds will be the highest. That's when your waves will be the highest. That's when your storm surge will be the highest. So everything is going to just get worse from here on out. We've entered the time frame. 6 p.m. is when impacts were expected to start occurring and really become significant, and that was 42 minutes ago at this point. And it's expected to continue all the way through very early Friday morning or very late tomorrow night. Will be when those significant impacts begin to decrease and conditions eventually improve, especially all day Friday into Saturday. So Erin is a very, very large Category 2 hurricane. That's something else we want to touch on here. Still expected to grow even larger in size, but you can see that tropical storm force wind field already pretty large in size here. Now, I think it's about as large as we were anticipating, but I don't know if it's large enough to get to North Carolina. It looks like those outer bands aren't really reaching as far west as the NHC was really predicting there. So I'll take a look and see their new WeatherWise. I'm going to go to WeatherWise to see their new forecast for the size of this storm. Yeah, so they're expecting it to really start about 11 p.m. tonight is when they're expecting that wind field to really begin to approach North Carolina as those outer bands get much, much closer. Now, we don't know for certain if those outer bands are actually going to impact North Carolina. That is definitely a bit more of a question mark. You can see there's something else right there, about 2 feet of water on the roads that fed into the beach parking lot on Atlantic Boulevard near East Drive, West Drive. Water is still coming ashore from the beach. So we're going to see a lot more of those little reports tonight. Really glad that we're actually getting reports from the National Weather Service, a National Weather Service employee right there. So, I mean, your NWS is literally right there. So it's just a quick little drive right down to the coastal area to file that report. Glad to see a report from the NWS there. So, yeah, you can see these outer bands, many of them, almost all of them are weakening by the time they get even close to shore here. Hold on, I'm going to loop this back a little bit further so you don't have to deal with it looping so fast. There you go. At least that's a little bit longer. So you can see these bands here, they really become a little bit more stationary. They don't move as fast once they get closer to North Carolina. And then by the time they get onshore, if they even do, they are very, very weak, if not nearly fully dissipated. So our best shot for these bands to move onshore will be closer to between 2 to 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'll take a look here. We go to the newest HRRR here, just to show you. So you can see that band, that outer band, could make its way onshore in NC here at about 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern time. But if it does, it will likely be substantially weaker. And then the best chance for those outer bands, this is beginning at about 1 a.m. very late tonight, early tomorrow morning, 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Eastern time, once again, those outer bands start to impact the coastline of North Carolina, the Outer Banks, and then you could see 3, 4 a.m. probably going to get a bit of rain, and it just depends on how long these bands last. But if they do make landfall, I want to say landfall again in quotation marks because again they're moving from the ocean over to the land. So that would definitely increase your overall impacts. Yesterday we really weren't thinking of any rainfall totals, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The more west Erin ends up going, the closer these bands are going to be to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And I just want to check the rainfall totals here just to see if these are like maybe any type of heavy rains here. Yeah, even with that being the case, we're still looking at maximum rainfall totals of 1 to 1.5 inches. So shouldn't see flash flooding being an issue from rainfall. Now from waves and storm surge, yes, that's going to be a big issue. So overall, definitely going to be pretty close to getting to North Carolina with those outer bands very early tomorrow morning. So that's going to be what we want to pay attention to. And then it will continue to be very close to North Carolina all the way until we're going to have to go to older model run here. Let me see here. I'm going to pull this all the way out. So all the way, I mean, we could continue to see these isolated heavy rain bands move onshore all the way until about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then the majority of those impacts begin to diminish, and we really don't see much left by the time we go into after 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And then by the time we get into Friday morning, really all impacts have halted across North Carolina, and this moves well out to sea. Now, impacts will still be possible across portions of the northeastern U.S. as we go into Friday, but in terms of North Carolina, you guys are going to be finished here going into very late Thursday, very early Friday morning. So just to reiterate, significant impacts already begun here at about 6:30 Eastern. Those will continue to increase until we reach the maximum time frame of our worst impacts between 1 a.m. Eastern time and 6 a.m. Eastern time. Then Erin will begin to slowly drift further off to the northeast. Still could see some heavy rain bands with tropical storm force wind speeds and hurricane force wind gusts all the way up until between 1 to 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And then after 3 p.m., those impacts begin to decrease, and then by the time, like I said, we get into the overnight hours tomorrow, many of those impacts are well offshore and well removed from North Carolina. So that is what we are dealing with there. Just wanted to show that model run. I'll show it probably a couple times in this live stream so that way everybody can get a hold of things, and just so you know generally what the upcoming precipitation may look like. Storm surge, I wouldn't describe it like a tsunami, but it is where the entire ocean practically goes up by a couple of feet. So, it is very, very bad. It is very, very bad. It's similar to a tsunami, but obviously they are occurred with different ways, obviously. And, let me see. Did I put the millibar wrong or something here? Ben, it's always scrolling right down there, bud. It's always scrolling right down beneath my face cam if you want to know the millibar at the newest update. 943 millibar. For a second, I thought I put the millibar wrong because you were talking about it. So, yeah. Those worst... Actually, you know what? I think that is, if I'm not... Okay, I am mistaken, so I'll just not say what I was about to say right there. But yeah, this is where your center is located. Right in about here. Right in about here is where that low pressure is. And your eye is like this. So your eye wall is about this big. Center low pressure, your actual eye itself is generally right in there. And actually, we do indeed have a confirmed outer eye wall that is formed. I don't really know what color to draw this in. I guess we'll go with blue. That is formed generally right in here. So your new eyewall is going to be substantially larger. I think I drew that first one way too large. Your first eyewall is like this big. And your low pressure's there. So our eye is essentially going to double, maybe even nearly triple in size. And compared to what our eye was earlier this afternoon, it's going to be like almost 10 times bigger, because our eye earlier this afternoon was about somewhere between 4 and 8 miles radius wise, and this one could be about 50 miles in terms of the radius there, which would be from west to east about 100 miles. So this eye should get very, very large, mainly tomorrow early morning. Like I said, that eye wall replacement cycle should finish relatively quickly, because we already have a very well-defined outer eye wall. It's not like what we had when it was a pinhole eye way back, I don't know, 5 days ago, almost at this point, 4 or 5 days ago. We already have that outer eye wall well strengthened and well established. We're just waiting for the inner eye wall to collapse, which has already begun to happen over the last about 2 hours. You can see this goes back to 5:30, actually about 5:10 Eastern time, and that's when the eyes started to really begin to collapse. And that's what we're waiting for, is to see that that eye wall completely dissipate, the inner eye wall, and then that outer eye wall will completely take over. Like I said, it will take over into the overnight hours. So our worst impacts, like I mentioned before, really ongoing right along Highway 12. We've seen a lot of flash flooding occur right in this, specifically this general vicinity here. And that's just going to continue to get worse. We are at high tide now, so high tide has officially begun. I believe that began at about 6:30 Eastern, about 20 minutes ago, right when we started stream. High tide really started to increase, and I don't know exactly when it peaks. I don't know when high tide peaks, but I know we're going to get another high tide peak tomorrow, very early tomorrow morning, like near 4 or 5 a.m. Let's see. I do have some cameras out here, but none of them are really that good of cameras. The best cameras I'm not allowed to show y'all, so that's fun, isn't it? But I'm not allowed to show you guys the better cameras, but we do have definitely a lot of storm surge that is occurring now. I'm not too sure how bad the storm surge is further north, up towards like Kitty Hawk and pointing north, but I do know storm surge is pretty bad, at least in this area here. I'm not too sure about further to the southwest or to the north. I haven't seen much there, and actually, we did see a report from the NWS somewhere out here. Let's go to here so you can see. Yeah, there you go. That was a report of about 2 feet of water on the roads. So that's probably from some storm surge and definitely some wave heights there. So basically what is happening is you know, that might be your eye. That actually might be your eye. That is your eye. Yeah, that's what I was going to say before, but I wasn't for sure about it. That is a very small portion of your northwest eye wall right there. It looks like a light rain shower from this far from radar, but that's the northwest quadrant of your eye right there. So that is indeed where your eye is going to be located, just off to the southeast of that, because that's the northwest quadrant right there. But that's just a shower of it. It's obviously substantially larger than that. So yeah, like I also mentioned, those tropical storm warnings also extend well up to the north. I do want to go ahead and go over the NHC. I want to go to the NHC site and talk about a few things real quick. Alrighty. So there's your NHC. So we do have still 2 AOIs, 2 areas of interest out here. One in the main development region and one beginning to exit the main development region over the next couple of days. Still looks like a tropical depression is very much a real possibility out of this, although looks like it might be closer to late this weekend. I was talking about Friday, Saturday being the best chance. Looks like it may be closer to Saturday, Sunday, maybe even a couple days later than that, where we could see a tropical depression form somewhere generally in this orange area you see highlighted from the NHC. Notice that is almost including Bermuda, so we do want to keep an eye on Bermuda as this moves up to the, generally right now to the west, but eventually northwest and then eventually north and then northeast, and should be mainly a fish storm. It should be mainly a fish storm. We're just really going to have to watch Bermuda there for any impacts if this does try to strengthen. We also have a 99L that is formed well off to the south-southwest of Cape Verde. A very brief tropical depression will be possible going into tomorrow, so all day Thursday, all day Friday, and then sometime on Saturday this will encounter a much more unfavorable environment, a much less favorable environment for tropical development going into the early weekend time frame. Of course, with Erin, if we go over to our cone of uncertainty here, like I said, we still have the tropical storm watch in effect for Bermuda. That may never be upgraded to a warning unless those tropical storm conditions are observed over Bermuda. And then you can see we are still forecasting, NHC is forecasting a major hurricane here going into 2 a.m. early tomorrow morning. That continues through at least 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and then it weakens into a Category 2 here Friday morning, and then a Category 1 sometime either Friday night or Saturday morning, and then it becomes extratropical sometime between Saturday and Monday. Pretty large time frame there, but somewhere in here it should become extratropical, and it's going to speed up even more drastically. So from here on out, this is really the slowest it's going to be over the next couple of days until the NHC stops advisories, as it's taken this gradual northeast turn. So the next 3 to 4 hours will be the slowest this thing's going to be moving, and then it's going to begin to pick up steam and really move off to the north-northeast. Those are your tropical storm warnings. Just wanted to show you this so you can see it goes inland a little bit more. Of course, Virginia Beach still inside those tropical storm warnings. All you guys got upgraded here. This entire area was upgraded. I believe it was at about the 2 p.m. Eastern time advisory is when all that stuff was upgraded to tropical storm warnings. Rainfall potential, you could see the main rainfall is well removed from North Carolina. Very, very well removed. Not expecting any flash flooding or anything significant. Still wouldn't rule out an isolated inch or two of rainfall across the Outer Banks in North Carolina, but much of that rainfall is going to be very well removed from any land. Rip current risk, obviously today we are still at a high risk, level 3 out of 3 for rip currents from all the way from barely north of Miami all the way up until you get to about Connecticut, Rhode Island, then it turns into a 2 out of 3, and then eventually down to a 1 out of 3 as you get into far southeastern Maine. Tomorrow, really much of the same, not much changes going into tomorrow. The rip current risk is a little bit lower, barely north of Miami, and the rip current risk increases across, what is that called? Cape Cod. There you go. It says its name right there. Cape Cod. Always forget that little hook right there in Massachusetts. So Cape Cod's risk for rip currents increases tomorrow as well. Peak storm surge, we're still looking at the same storm surge forecast, although they have increased the storm surge risk all the way up to nearly New York City there for the potential of 1 to 3 foot storm surge. So we do not see something like this often at all. This is very, very rare to see when we have storm surge this large of an affected area, all the way up from east central New Jersey, almost into New York, all the way through much of the mid-Atlantic region, all the way down to Georgetown, South Carolina. Pretty rare to see something like that. I haven't seen that in a very, very long time. I can't remember the last time I seen a storm surge forecast that large in terms of width there. I mean, that has to span almost 1,000 miles, maybe even more than that. Let me go check. Now I'm curious. So it goes from about Georgetown all the way up to, let's see, all the way up to New York. I thought it was near 1,000. It's about 650 miles. It's about 650 miles, but obviously it's not a straight line, so you have to wobble this way some, and that increases the miles as you don't go in a straight line across the northeastern U.S. So, 650 plus miles worth of storm surge possible there across a good chunk of the mid-Atlantic, the coastal mid-Atlantic regions, all the way up to the almost into the New England states. Probability of wind speeds, you could see here, very difficult to see now that we're so zoomed out. But North Carolina, the Outer Banks are still in between about that 20 to 30 percentile for sustained tropical storm force wind speeds. And then do want to go over to the wind history to show you how much larger the hurricane force wind speeds and the tropical storm force wind speeds have gotten over the last about 12 hours. That's generally the last 12 hours there. And then, of course, its entire track there as well. Let's see here. That's your earliest arrival time of wind speeds. You could see really wind speeds are likely arriving towards the southern Outer Banks right now and will be encompassing much of the Outer Banks into the overnight hours tonight. And then it's going to get out of here. We could see tropical storm force wind speeds sustained very close to, if not over, Virginia Beach, and especially the very coastal area of Virginia Beach. And tropical storm force wind gusts can't be ruled out all the way up till about Cape Cod up there in Massachusetts. Notice I said wind gusts. I'm not expecting sustained winds whatsoever up to 40 miles per hour, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see a couple 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts span somewhere from Virginia Beach all the way up to Cape Cod there across the eastern U.S. So that's your main NHC products at the 5 o'clock advisory. Obviously, we'll get the 8 o'clock advisory here in a little bit over probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes from now. Let's see here. Yeah, I haven't seen the winds yet. I haven't seen winds pick up at all. I've seen some gusty winds, but I haven't seen any good increase in winds across the Outer Banks. I haven't seen anything like that. Let's see here. There's still a lot of flash flooding there. Yeah, a lot of the flooding I've seen is out of the Cape Hatteras area. The winds aren't expected to be like too crazy. I think maximum sustained winds of probably 40 to 45 miles per hour, which is low in tropical storm force. But I do think if some of these outer bands get onshore, I would not be surprised with wind gusts upwards of 75 miles per hour. But that is only if some of these outer bands can get onshore into the overnight hours, which I think will happen. I do think we'll see at least a couple outer bands end up getting onshore. Okay, that's your look at radar. There's another report. Which one's new here? I think this is the newer one. Let me read it, please. Oh, got hit the sweet spot. Multiple NWS employees report rave run-up leading to high water levels at Western Ocean Regional Access on Emerald Isle. Is that Isle? If I'm not saying that right, someone can correct me. I know last time up in the northeastern U.S., I pronounced it like almost like island, and that was dead wrong, and someone said Isle. So I think that is how you pronounce it, but it varies in pronunciation depending on where you are. I mean, these rain showers here are technically associated with Erin. They're the extreme outer bands of Erin, but those are not packing, 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts with them. I'd be surprised if those are packing anything more than 20 mile an hour winds right there. I mean, yeah, I really don't think we're going to have water spout potential on the northwest side of Erin here. Let's see. I want to look at, where is it? Where are you? Just looking through the products to see. I guess I can go with Yeah, I guess we'll go with supercell composite. I mean, it's not like a 0% chance. I just don't think it's that likely. So, yeah, in the overnight hours, I mean, there is a non-0% chance for a brief water spout to potentially make its way very close to the Outer Banks. But yeah, our water spout outbreak is definitely going to be, I mean, gracious day, full-fledged water spout outbreak on the northern all the way down to the eastern portions of Erin. Bunch of water spouts. Not too surprising there. Obviously a tropical system. Pronounced it right. Yay. I'm learning. I'm learning my pronunciations. Let's go. Let's see the... I want to take a look at the HRRR for tomorrow, too. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, so the product I was trying to find was wind shear. And the mid-level wind shear, that's not really going to be much of a big problem. It's going to be that lower-level wind shear, and it looks like we do get some wind shear picking up to about 150 SRH there in the 0 to 1 kilometer. Right on the, like, near Cape Hatteras. So, like I said, I think there's a non-zero risk for a water spout. A water spout is a tornado over the water. Hello, Chip. Glad to see you in here, as well as Legacy. Welcome to the stream, Legacy. Sorry I didn't welcome you sooner. Let's see here. Yeah, but I'm just not very confident in the water spout to tornado risk here. I just really wouldn't rule out one completely. It's a very, very low risk. Many of the water spouts and anything tornadic will be focused on this portion of Erin. And obviously that moves up to the northeast with time, so that is not going to get anywhere close to the Outer Banks. That's going to remain very well offshore, minimum 200 miles away from the Outer Banks there. But like I said, probably a full-fledged water spout outbreak. Thankfully, that is well out to sea. All right, let's see if we got Recon getting any closer here. Radar Omega was very much struggling to update Recon. Looks like that is fixed now. Yay! Let's go. Yeah, that was that didn't update for almost like an hour and a half, so yeah, you could see. There you go. They lost data this entire portion of the trip. Radar Omega lost data. And I think Tropical Tidbits did as well. The one I was using was Cyclonic WX. It's always fascinating to watch these tropical systems. Thankfully, glad this one is staying at least a decent ways offshore. Unfortunately, still going to cause impacts, but it's always fascinating to watch them on radar loops. Just to see how all the rain interacts. See how it all rotates and spins and dies out, reforms, and it just repeats the process as it progresses on. But in terms of the very far future, I do think we're not going to see a whole lot between the last few days of August, so... Ooh. That was something. Sorry, I didn't realize the model uptrended that much. The GFS has a tropical storm, high-end tropical storm hitting Bermuda right there. That very much surprised me. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I do think a tropical depression very close proximity to Bermuda is likely sometime probably Sunday. But yeah, after that system gets out of here, whenever that ends up dying out, we should be. Why does the GFS always do that? We should be fairly inactive. I really don't think we're going to see a whole lot for the last couple days of August and the first few days of September. I really don't expect to see much. Of course, we'll get the occasional AOI, probably in the Caribbean, maybe in the Southwest Gulf, maybe in the main development region. We could get a tropical storm somewhere between the last few days of August and the first week of September, but I really don't expect much until the middle of September. And then I think the worst of our hurricane season will actually be in the last like 2 weeks of September and the first 2 weeks of October. I think the end of September and the beginning of October will be the worst of our hurricane season. And the Gulf is very much a flip-flop here. There is the chance we don't see much in the Gulf this year at all. But I mean, all it takes, we've seen what the Gulf does before, so all it takes is a vorticity blob off the main development region off the coastline of Africa. It goes unnoticed by the model runs, goes through the Caribbean, doesn't strengthen much, and then once it taps into that Gulf water, it just explodes. We've seen it before where the models just don't start up training until like 3-4 days before the system becomes a named storm. So I think the Gulf is less at risk this year than last year. We've trended towards a lot more of the main development region up through the southeastern U.S. Yeah, definitely going to have to watch out for your trip, Legacy. Hopefully we'll still be in that unfavorable pattern with a bunch of dry air and wind shear. A lot of dry air is going to be impacting the main development region towards the last few days of August and the first week maybe 2 of September. Braden, we don't allow channel names, but yes, I have. I sure have. And you did say, hold on, there was a question in that too. When do you think impacts in the Outer Banks will peak? So I believe the impacts have already started to peak, but it will. So it's already really started, obviously, because you've been watching their stream. You could see the impacts have already begun, and it should peak between. I think the absolute peak of it will be 1 a.m. to about 5-6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The absolute peak will definitely be overnight. Really, a fully overnight peak is what I'm thinking. And there's a lot of uncertainty on if we're going to even see convection on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. The best chance for that is probably right around that time frame too. And if we do see any of that good convection get onto the Outer Banks, that's when we'll see our isolated hurricane force wind gusts. So Recon is getting into the southwest side of the system now. Oh no. Oh no. Why? Why have you done this to me? They moved the mesoscale. Look, it's cut off. Why? Why must you move it right now? You couldn't wait just a little bit longer? Man. Now we're gonna have to use our slower updating satellite imagery here. That's the first time I've seen them actually move it too early. So now we got to use this less updating, less frequent satellite imagery. I mean, it's still once every... once every 10 minutes. That's a big difference right there. We're getting it once every minute, minute and a half. Now we're getting it once every 10 minutes. They moved it just a little bit too early. I mean, at least we could still see the northern portion of the storm, right? At least they didn't completely move it to a different portion of the U.S. Satellite sold on us, y'all. Satellite selling right now. But at least we still have a satellite that updates, so... Yeah, this is where they're getting the intermediate high-end tropical storm force. Looks like this is actually hurricane force wind speeds right in here. And then, like I said, that new outer eye wall. We have a new outer eye wall that has been observed around here with the inner eye wall, like right in here in your low pressure in the middle of that. So this thing should double. This thing should double in size. And compared to earlier, like I said, it could be like up to 10 times larger because earlier our eye, right in here, right there, this is when your eye was starting to fall apart. But I mean, your eye wall was super small and your eye was really small. And that was only like I said, that was about 3 to 5 mile radius eye right there before it closed. And it still took a little while to close after that. And this next eye, if it does fully clear out, I don't know if it's going to completely clear out on satellite. It's probably going to be like, let's see. I don't know, it could be like that large, and that's about 9 times larger right there. Tornado warning in the general thunderstorm risk. What? Where you see that? Where you see that? Are you meaning right now? Or are you talking about past? Oh, there was a tornado warning in southern Tennessee earlier today. Okay, I did see that. Yep, I saw that. I thought you meant right now. I saw that. That was in extreme northeast Alabama, extreme south central Tennessee. Let's see. I need to go to the traffic cams out here on the NC Drive site. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I said, right near let's see. It's along Highway 12. I'll zoom in for you over here. Right in this area, we also have a traffic cam in this area. That's where our worst impacts are at the moment. It was on the ground? Really? I didn't see that. I didn't look at it on radar. I just got the notification. So that's where our worst impacts are ongoing at the moment. That's where it's been observed for our worst impacts right now. I don't think Recon's going to find this storm any stronger, completely honest with you. With that eye closed, it's probably going to be a bit longer before we completely get a eyewall replacement cycle to finish. It's just starting, that eyewall replacement cycle. I could see if we perhaps had an update with microwave imagery. Nope, not since 1 o'clock. This is cyclonic WX microwave imagery here at about 1:30 Eastern time. And Lord have mercy, you can see that outer eye wall is ginormous. Ginormous outer eye wall. And then that was your inner eye wall right there. Gracious day. Even bigger than I first remembered. That is insane. So, believe me saying that, when I say it could be up to 10 times larger with the second eye wall, yeah, that's what I mean. You could probably fit 10 of these, right? I'm sure you could fit 10 of these inside this outer eye wall completely. Like I said, that's about that may not even be a 5 mile radius eye at that point. Look how small that is. But near 5 mile radius eye at that point, and you can see the outer eye wall is probably closer to 50. So 5 to 50. At first, when I said it, I was like, maybe I'm being a little bit over exaggerating here, but then I resaw this. I'm like, okay, never mind. It is as big as I thought it was. Be curious to see how that looks now. It should be even more well organized. Yep, there's a Recon update again. Definitely hurricane force, low in hurricane force wind speeds there on the southwest side of the system. Let's see what we got further up here. No traffic cams. Man. Yeah, another thing is to mention this as well is we're getting high tide, right? So uh, just simply because we have high tide, that's going to make your waves even higher. And then on top of that high tide, we also are going to have our storm surge being an extra 2 to 4 feet higher than that. So what that means is now, since you have your high tide, just because it's high tide, not low tide, that's 1 foot already. And then your upwards of 4 foot storm surge, that's 5 feet overall. And then you get 20 to 25 foot maximum wave heights on top of that. And all of a sudden, you have these insanely high waves. Really, really, really high waves that are reaching literally up to houses that are on stilts made for storm surge. So you just get a really, really dangerous situation. And that will be the same case for tomorrow morning too, because it will be the same case tomorrow when this system's very, very close. About 5 a.m. is going to be its very closest peak there. And we're going to see, high tide again in the morning towards 5 a.m. Pier house, yeah. That might be what you call it. I'm not very familiar with the term. Rain is close. It is close to North Carolina, and we've had some of the far outer bands barely impact North Carolina, but we haven't had any of the main outer bands hit NC. Like this was a main outer band here, and it's moving well off to the south-southwest. And then this is just some isolated showers and thunderstorms associated with the very far outer bands. And this is just some ordinary rain. Still could have tropical storm force winds in that, though. You know what I'm a little bit curious about here? Let's see. Yeah, okay. I was wanting to see if we're going to get a millibar on this or not. I was going to say I'm a bit curious to see what these millibars are, but no. Why would we get a millibar reading on Recon? How dare I assume? Normally they have millibar readings. Let's see, that's the wind speeds, that's the temperature, dew point, rain rate, surface wind speeds, geo heights, pressure. Yep, no reading on the pressure. No good reading. No, it's not just Radar Omega. It's everything. It's the Recon. It's Recon as a whole. Because it's Tropical Tidbits, Cyclonic WX, and Radar Omega 2. Now, Cyclonic WX had data between here and here, whereas Tropical Tidbits and Radar Omega did not. How big is Erin? Big. Big. The wind field extends about 250-mile radius away from the center. From west to east, that's about almost 500 miles. Which is crazy. Yeah, I'm just gonna instantly time you out for that. There's no point to be rude. I'm not even giving you a warning. I don't know why you were rude, Sniper. Welcome to the stream, Sydney. I apologize. Let's see here. I know, Legacy. Weird. Why is it switching like that? Oh, no. Yeah, but that's your tropical storm force wind speeds, like I said, about almost 500 miles from southwest to northeast. But the system itself is even bigger than that. There we go. I want to try to get a larger view. Maybe if I just do the continental US. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So this is the outflow right here from Erin. The outflow from Erin is above my roof right now here in Southern Virginia. And I mean, it goes all the way back down, even all the way into the Caribbean. If we go back to here, you can see the outflow. The outflow goes all the way back down into the Caribbean too. So the system, not including the tropical storm force wind speeds, I mean, it's giant. It is giant. Let's see here. Just looks like some overcast, maybe stratus clouds. Really nothing special. You know, the more you type in caps, the more Nightbot's gonna ban you, and the more you're gonna be timed out. So there's no point in doing it. But it's heading right now to the northeast. Northeast. And it's going to start taking a sharper turn tonight. The wind field is definitely not Sandy size. Man, I looked at Sandy's wind field the other day. Let me see if I can pull up the archive for Sandy. Show you how huge Sandy was. Wind history. Yeah, this is Sandy, man. Sandy was just on another level. Sandy was just simply on another level right there. I mean, we're talking about this big for tropical storm force wind speeds, and then this big for hurricane force wind speeds. We're talking about 3 Erins. That's what we're talking about. 3 times the size of Erin. I wish I could do a single. This was the wind speed probability graphic. Look at that. That purple is the observed wind field right there. Huge. I mean, it was covering Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC, and if you put it a little bit more to the west, it would cover all of Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, even into Ontario, Canada. I mean, just insane. That was the cone advisories for it right there. So you could see how they were angling it out to sea, and then closer, and then eventually right to the U.S. That's insane. When was Sandy? Well, there's the dates right there. That's October 28th, 2012, October 29th, 2012, and it formed on October 22nd, 2012. Just crazy. I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to get a system like that ever again, because that wind field, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. You're just never going to be able to compare. You look at Erin's wind field, you think, dude, that's huge. It's got to be at least somewhat close to Sandy. Nope. Like I said, you could probably fit 2.5, 3 Erins inside of Sandy's wind field. just insane. It's just crazy. Oh my goodness. Yep. There you go. There is the observed wind field right there. That's the wind field from the NHC. This is the single image of it. Dude. Like, look at that. It's humongous. Like I said, almost all of Virginia, almost all of NC. That's just crazy. And Erin's tropical storm force wind speeds would probably be like, that's about that large. Erin's wind field is going to be able to cover pretty much all of North Carolina and South Carolina. Yeah, if you put Erin's center like right over South Carolina, it would be able to cover from all the way from southeast Georgia up through central Virginia. Whereas Sandy's was from southwest Maine to northeast South Carolina. I mean, southeast Maine to northeast South Carolina? Yep. That's 800 miles from northeast to southwest. And Erin's is about 400 miles, so you could literally fit 2 Erins inside of Sandy's wind field. I wonder if it was larger at any other point. And I mean, it kept that wind field forever. Like, look how much it grew in one update. And watch how big it gets right here. Bigger, bigger. I mean, look at that. Never seen something like it in my life. I can't believe it was actually something that happened. And it hit the eastern U.S. too. That's just crazy. I mean, the impacts would be just I couldn't even fathom the impacts. Yep, that's what Nightbot's for. Nightbot got every single last one of those messages. And guess what? Also banned from bin. It's crazy. Florence Winfield, let's see. I gotta go to the archive of it. This was in 2018, so we had the better archive graphics. I don't know why it is so zoomed out, but it is. This is Florence's, about the maximum wind field for Florence right there. So you could see it was large enough to cover the entire Outer Banks almost down to Myrtle Beach with the tropical storm force wind speeds. Alright, we got inside the, Recon got inside the inner eyewall here. Woo. Yep. Talk about weak. Talk about weak, dude. Man. I mean, I don't even think they found the center. Yeah, they definitely didn't hit the center. Definitely did not get to the center. I don't know if this is even going to be major hurricane status. Even by the time it's done with the eyewall replacement cycle, if it even finishes, I don't even know about that. I don't know if it's ever going to be able to get back to that status. I wouldn't be shocked if at the 11 o'clock update they take off the major hurricane forecasts. Yeah, so the radius is about 200 to 225, it looks like. Like right here it's 250, but that's a little bit too outside there. So the radius, it's between it's probably going to be about 500 miles. I mean, the next NHC update, it's probably going to be 500 miles from southwest to northeast, and the radius about 250. Because it's only going to grow a bit further. Right now, it's about 450 or so. Yep. Sandy was forecasted to go out to sea, and most models had it like that. I think it was the Euro model was the only model that predicted Sandy to go into the eastern US. And then other models eventually caught up to that trend. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. We are only 8 likes away from 100 likes. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all, so you know when I go live or upload a video. And also share the stream with your family, friends, social media. Now, I am going to be very busy this week, the end of this week. So, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to have any content for the next 3 days. Since I've been live so much, I think I'm going to just take 3 days off to get energy back, and then I'll be back Sunday. Probably Sunday evening. Which in that time, we may have another name storm by the time I get back here. I was going to try to fit in live streams. I was going to try to fit in weather streams, but honestly, I'm just going to spend time with family for the break. Not have to try to squeeze in a live stream. But the good news is, at least it's at the end of the week, right? At least it's not, at least it wasn't 2 days ago when Erin was beginning to approach north of the Bahamas, and we were really wondering when it was going to turn because of that west trend. And then TikTok went crazy saying, it's not going to turn, it's not going to turn, it won't turn, it's going to hit the U.S. head on, and it turned. There's the eye. They did find the eye right there. Or at least really, really close to it. I think they may have been a little bit north. Well, actually. No, this satellite updated with that. Yeah, they may have been a little bit to the northwest of where that full center is, but it's somewhere in here. See you later, Legacy. I probably won't end up being live by the time you get back. If we do get a named storm, I'll do a community post on it to let you know. And then if it does look like it will threaten Bermuda, I'll do a live stream. But it looks like if it does threaten Bermuda, that would be on Sunday anyways, and that's definitely when I'll be able to stream again. I'll definitely be live Sunday. It looks like the last, like literally Sunday into Monday. That's going to be when it's closest to Bermuda. Man. These wind speeds are not strong at all. I know the cone says it's going to strengthen, but I'm almost going to change my title just because I disagree so much. I don't think this thing's going to be strengthening any further. I don't even know if it's going to make it to major status. If it was a major hurricane, I feel like it was at this point. The 2 o'clock advisory. That's probably when it was the closest to a major hurricane, if it wasn't. And then from here on out, it's really just fallen apart. We'll see. You'd be surprised what an Eyewall replacement cycle can do. You'd be surprised. So it's not impossible. But I know for a fact this thing is running very, very, very thin on time. It does not have much time left. I'd say day at max. I'd say 8 p.m. tomorrow. From there on out, it's going to weaken for the rest of its time frame. Yeah. They have it making it to 2 p.m. and then the 2 a.m. advisory, yeah. I'd say about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. From there on out, that's when it's going to weaken, so... It's not impossible. I'll see. We'll see if we wake up to a major hurricane tomorrow morning, but if it's not a major hurricane tomorrow morning, it's probably never going to be. I completely agree with that, Ben. Matter of fact, I think the peak of hurricane season isn't even going to be the actual peak. I think our main peak hurricane season is probably going to be the end of September into early October. Like I said, the last about 2 weeks of September and the first 2 weeks of October, I think, will be the most active. Kind of like what we had last year. Now, I still think, I think we're going to get we're probably going to get at least one more named storm here over the next week or two. Whether it be from the AOI going towards Bermuda or 99L or something else that spins up. I think we'll get one more named storm, but I don't think it will be that active. Honestly, I really don't expect it to be that active from the last few days of August through the first week or two of September. And then after September 15th, I think that's when it's really going to start popping off. I know we have long-range GFS ensembles. That's a thing. Those can literally go out like, I don't know, 800 hours or something. Yeah, 840 hours. I'm curious what that has. Yeah, that really lights up September 14th, but that's 600 hours out. We can barely predict 40 hours out, so. I don't know if I'm really gonna be trusting that. We'll see. We'll see how that verifies. According to the GFS ensembles. Yep. Really things get going September 14th and after. That ain't even fairy tale land, dude. Like, man, I thought 384 hours out was bad on a model run. How in the world is 840 gonna verify? I bet it ain't gonna be close. Is there like something I could Oh yeah, the model confidence is just none. Cause it's so far out. There's just like no highlighted colors beyond 350 hours out. Because it's just so little confidence. I do think we'll have, so this is the, hold on. Okay, that's up in Canada. Never mind. Let me go over here to the outlooks. So, oh, they just upped it to a high. Look at that. So actually, yeah. Likely going to become a tropical depression and possibly even a tropical storm here as it goes towards Bermuda this weekend and early next week. So, yeah, this little guy right here, as it moves up, will likely end up forming into a tropical depression, maybe even a tropical storm towards Bermuda. Definitely going to be favorable starting, let's see, today's Wednesday, so Friday, yeah. Friday all the way till Tuesday. Friday through Tuesday. This will be favorable for a tropical depression, and Sunday is probably the best chance for a tropical storm. And then we do have little 99L out here that's trying its hardest to become a tropical depression. If it does become a tropical depression, it will only last for no more than 48 hours. Conditions are very unfavorable after Friday night, so this thing should die out Saturday. And then beyond that, we are going to keep an eye on the Caribbean. This area right here can't rule out the potential for tropical development towards the end of the last few days of August and the first few days of September. But that is very uncertain. There's no strong signals or anything like that. So probably gonna get, what is it, Ferdinand, something like that. Probably gonna get that named storm this weekend, and then we could get another named storm sometime over the next 2 weeks or so. What in the world is G? What's the next named storm? Um, Ah, there we go. Oh, okay. Got it. I got it. Thank you, Ben and Maury. Appreciate it. Hello, Hoop. Welcome to the stream. Uh, if you mean Erin, it's not expected to. The center is not expected to impact land, but the outer bands could skim the outer banks of North Carolina. We're also seeing a lot of very, very high waves, strong rip currents, and especially flooding due to those high waves, mainly in this area, which is in Cape Hatteras. And this whole island is completely closed to the public now. No ferries are going there. And in terms of this system here, we're gonna watch Bermuda and the Northern Lesser Antilles, mainly Bermuda, on Sunday and Monday. System behind that, this little guy right here, no land. This is what you call a fish storm right here. That is a fish storm, if it even becomes a named storm. Because that's away from Cape Verde, away from Africa, away from South America, away from the Lesser Antilles, away from the U.S. That would be a fish storm if it does fire. And then I'll go over here to the CPC so I could show you what I was talking about. Oh, okay. Yeah. This will definitely show you. Give me just a second to pull it up. This. Yeah, so like I said, the looks like they're mainly thinking the first week of September there for the chances of tropical development in the Caribbean and the Southwest Gulf. And then the main development region, there's a low chance. I don't really expect much, but you'd be surprised what a little bit of vorticity can do in the main development region. I mean, for instance, this AOI we have back here, and that's an official product by the CPC. 20% chance there, about 20% in that red shaded colors there in the main development region. But this guy right here, 99L, I mean, that was not on a single model run to become anything notable in terms of even an AOI, really, until like 2 days ago. 2 days ago, actually, or was it yesterday? It might have been, I think it was yesterday. Was it not yesterday? I swear it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday afternoon, me and Lucky pointed it out off the coastline of Africa, and it had no model support. No model support yesterday at all. And the NHC was like, you know what? We don't care what models say. We're highlighting a 10%. And then eventually it became a 20% and then a 30%. And then it got up to a 40% here. So this guy had no model support. And that easily could end up happening at any point in hurricane season. We could just get a random storm that literally comes out of nowhere in the matter of a couple hours. Just simply because it gets a bit better vorticity than the models say, and it's in a slightly better area. Oh, wow. Definitely, yeah. So you know what that is? That is probably them finding the new maximum oh, what is it called? I forgot exactly what it's called. But it's the new wind maximum. That's what it's called. That they're finding the new wind maximum, it seems like on the outer eye wall. That may be your outer eye wall right there. There's no way, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, it could be. It's possible that's like where your outer eye wall is. But definitely a new wind maximum on the northeast side. New NHC update is out. Very minimal change. Only really any change is the 2 millibar drop. That's about it. So 110, 941, 14 north. North at 14. North at 14, 110, 941 as of 8 Eastern. So what I mean by the new wind maximum is this is our inner eye right here. And that is where our previous maximum sustained winds were. Now you can see these kind of pinker wind barbs. That means that there are strong winds, very strong winds, over 105 knots in this case, or right around 105 knots, where those pink wind barbs are. So it seems like our outer eye wall, which may be generally somewhere in here, is becoming stronger than our inner eye wall. And I'm not for sure that is where your eye wall is. That was my question there. I don't know if that is the case or not. But I know your outer eye wall is supposed to be about 50 miles. Which would put it like right in there. So if that is the case, then this would be our new eye wall strengthening. Basically, the maximum sustained winds will be found here as opposed to here. But I don't know if that's just like a much stronger portion of convection there, or if it's actually an eye wall and like an eye is trying to form over there. Still, much of our rain is quite well removed from the Outer Banks, and any rain that is close just ends up dying out here. You can see it just dies out before it makes, quote, landfall with those rain showers. I wish I knew when the next microwave imagery would be. We ain't got one in so long. It ain't gonna complete an eyewall replacement cycle for a long time, I can tell you that. I don't even know where the main outer eyewall is. I just know that it's formed. It's just I don't know how well it is right now, and how strong it is, and exactly where it's located. So don't know a lot whatsoever. Let's see here. Okay. Just seeing if we got anything new, y'all, real quick. Yeah, there's the NHC update. That was actually a bit later. I didn't realize it was that late, honestly. So that came out at 7:52. They've been a little bit later than normal, just simply because of Recon. Recon took forever to get here, y'all. They took off at about 4:30, I think. It took them 4:30 all the way to like 7:30 to get into that eye. Like, geez. They're pretty much out of fuel by now. That's crazy. Literally pretty much outside. Let's see. Yeah, they are getting outside of that eye by now. They're well outside of the eye and the eye wall. Oh, yay! They pulled our satellite imagery back down. Look at that. It was up there for about, like, let's see. It was misplaced for almost 30 minutes, and they just pulled it back down. We got our 1-minute satellite imagery back here. Yeah, see, I don't... Your main eye is definitely still here. Your inner eye is definitely still intact to some degree. Because you could still see your maximum amount of convection is right around here. You still even have maybe a little eye trying to poke out. I doubt it will last long at all, though. So this is definitely not your outer eye yet. And I don't think that's going to become that whole thing I just drew. I highly doubt that's going to be our whole eye wall. If it is, it would be like this portion here would be our eye wall, be pretty lopsided. Yeah, that is the eye attempting to come back from what I can tell. Attempting. Likely not going to succeed, but it's attempting. Yeah, so on this recon pass here, maximum winds were 105 knots flight level. That is 10 knots weaker than the last pass. Millibar 940. Apparently, we got a drop zone of drop zone of 940 millibar there. They the NEC went with 941 because the drop zone says 940.4. So I guess they decided to go up a bit. No way. No, no, hurricanes are huge. A little plane going through it is not going to disrupt it at all. Nope. Not one bit. I mean, these things, hurricanes are giant. A plane going through it is not going to disrupt it. I wish that would be the case. That would be nice. Just get the hurricane hunters to consistently fly through it until the hurricane dies. That'd be awesome. But sadly, nah. I'm trying to think of like a comparison. It would be like, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a comparison. I can't think of it. It's so little. It just doesn't affect it at all. It just doesn't. Yeah, a nuke wouldn't even stop it. Nope. And I think that was like at one point that was an option brought up to stop hurricanes. And I mean the energy these things produce, it's an insanely higher amount than what a nuke could produce in terms of the energy they accumulate, especially when you get to cat 5s that last long. And a nuke just simply, it would be a horrible idea because think of it. Think of a nuke's fallout. I mean, it's so devastating. The bomb in itself and the fallout then after is super devastating. That fallout stays years, even decades, well after the nuke was dropped. And if we drop that into a hurricane, you're essentially just going to turn it into a nuclear hurricane. They're already nuclears in themselves because they can intensify by 100 miles per hour in 24 hours. And then you drop something that's completely full of nuclear activity inside of it, and it just wraps all that fallout around. And yeah, that's a good way to make this planet non-existent. Because like I said, you know, you see how big this system is now. If we go to like the size of the system, imagine we dropped a nuke into it. And the outflow of this system is giant. So if you dropped it here, it's going to be pushing all of the fallout up and around like this. And then it's also going to be recirculating that fallout in through like this. Just like that. So it's going to keep circulating all of that fallout throughout the whole system. It's just a dumb idea. I remember there's like a hypothetical video on that I watched so long ago, like when I first got interested into weather. Let me see if I can find the title of it. I'm gonna do this. Let's see. Yep. 7 years ago. 7 years ago this was uploaded, and I think I watched it not too long after it was uploaded. That's the video I watched. Almost over 5.5 million views. That's what I watched. I remember it. Because I knew it. I'm like, I know for sure I watched a video on it. Hold on, I'm gonna save it for later so I can rewatch it. It's only a 5-minute video, so. Like, literally here if you want to watch it. Let me see. I'll give you the title of it. It's literally called What Happens If You Drop a Nuclear Bomb into a Hurricane. What happens if you drop a nuclear bomb into a hurricane? There is something like turbines or wind turbines would possibly work, but the thing is, we can't build them fast enough. You would have to build hundreds, if not thousands, of turbines, if not more than thousands of turbines, to be able to blow a hurricane away from a shoreline. And you can't do that in the matter of, 2 days. And with how these things shift so quickly, even the slightest shift in the track, and it's gonna miss them turbines, and then it's gonna go poorly. So it's just there's no way we can stop a hurricane. They generate too much power. We haven't even found a way to stop a tornado yet. So there ain't no way we're going to be able to stop a hurricane, something that literally forms tornadoes. But you can find all those things on like hypothetical channels, I'm sure. Like I said, I found that a long time ago. I mean, yeah, not yet. Can't stop it yet, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in 2,000 years we'll be able to. Um, Legacy, that I don't know about that. I'm not a scientist. You would have to be. It would be interesting. I would like to talk to a scientist about like, could you actually stop a tornado with like a bunch of those chemicals they used in Twisters and Twister? I would say it ain't gonna work, especially with how strong tornadoes are and how deviant they are and how rain wrapped they are. I mean, it just ain't gonna go well with that either. Overall, it's just they're both suicide missions. They really are. You're not gonna get anywhere with trying to stop a hurricane and a tornado. Let's see. We could create our own high pressure system and send it out and steer it away. Yeah, except for one problem, we can't create a high pressure. just one small issue, we can't. Just a little issue there. Just a little issue. A little flaw in your plan there. Put a wall. You do know that like these things are tens of thousands of feet. They go tens of thousands of feet into the stratosphere, and like they're really tall systems, right? The atmosphere. I mean, they go very tall. How tall again? Like tall. I'd say I don't know how tall is. I wonder if we could figure out how tall Erin is. Let's see. I'd say probably near 50,000 feet. I'd say probably between 40 to 50,000 feet tall. And you ain't building a wall that high. I don't think... Oh, Lord have mercy, don't click that. We'll end up breaking my computer if I do that. Maybe, possibly... Yeah, I don't think this is... What's that red line? Yeah, that red line is 30,000 feet. And you can see these showers and thunderstorms. These are 30,000... Minimum 30,000 feet tall. But, like, the center of it goes higher than that. Yeah, so that's 30,000 to 40,000 feet. And these are the outer bands of it, but the center is going to go probably higher than that. So just these outer bands are 30 to 40,000 feet right there. So we know it's, they're tall. Point being is you ain't going to be able to build a wall that tall. That's for sure. Webcams indicate dune overtopping in this area due to large swells. And we could probably build a wall a good solid, maybe 100 feet high. But I don't think we're ever going to get anywhere close to 40,000, 50,000 feet up. And I don't even think we would be able to survive to be able to build a wall that tall. Make the hurricane cool. Will that help? That is impossible. You will have to cool an entire body of water. We are talking about tens and like 10,000. I don't know how many miles would you have to cool. And the thing is, how would you cool it too? You'd have to cool thousands of miles worth of water, and it's just you're not going to be able to do that either. But yes, it would work theoretically. Because this hurricane weakened because it stalled. So it stalled over warm waters, and it continued to do... Oh, what's the process called? Upwelling, is it? I think it's called upwelling. It's where it brings and mixes the cooler waters beneath up to the surface, and it keeps on redoing that over and over, and eventually it cools its own waters to the point where it can't survive anymore. So if it doesn't move, it's going to choke itself out and weaken substantially. And that's what happened with this. It went from a 140 Cat 4 to a 110 Cat 2, or actually 105 Cat 2. Like, what are you going to do? Are you yeah, a fridge. Yeah, sure. A fridge is going to make it different. Where are you going to get that fridge from? You're going to have to get a fridge the size of the Gulf. Like, man, that thing's going to have to be thousands of miles wide. And where are you going to plug it in at? A little normal outlet ain't going to work. An iceberg? Sure, that's going to cool it down some, but by the time you get it to the southern Atlantic, it's going to be fully melted, so nope. And how are you going to do that? That's going to take a lot of work, and you're not going to be able to pull a big enough iceberg. This has turned into a hypothetical channel now. Plug it in at your house. Like, you wouldn't be able to turn that thing on at all. Okay, hear me out. Let's move the North American continent westward. So let's just change the entire geography of Earth. What? Nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, but like I said, it's just going to melt by the time it gets there. By the time you pull an iceberg all the way out to the south central portion of the Atlantic, it's going to melt. because the waters are very, very hot. I mean, we're talking the waters that this thing's in right now. They're about let's see, they're about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. About 88, yeah, right around 88 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. You know how fast that iceberg is gonna melt, and you're not gonna have to pull it like, oh, I'm only got to pull it like a mile or two. We are talking about pulling this thing like if we got it from, I don't know, Greenland, for instance. You're gonna have to pull that thing 2,500 to 3,000 miles to the southwest, and your waters get to like 85 plus degrees Fahrenheit, like right in here. So that thing's not gonna make it. And by the time you pull it there, the hurricane's probably gonna be gone. I don't even know how long that would take. Like, say you use boats, right? Tugboats or something. I don't think those things are gonna be moving faster than probably. I'm gonna look it up. Oh my goodness, even slower than I thought. I was gonna say no faster than 30 miles per hour. Skip that. No faster than 20 miles per hour. So if we do the simple math on that, let's do 20. Let's do 2,000. Yeah, let's do 2,800 divided by 20. 140 hours, and I'd say that's probably the minimum. So you're looking at 6 days. And like I said, by the time 6 days, the thing's either going to make landfall or be out in the northern Atlantic at that time. Yeah, the ocean is huge. It is ginormous. That's why I'm saying you ain't going to be able to pull an iceberg across the entire ocean in time to get it to a hurricane. And by the time you get it there, it's going to be just, you ain't going to have an iceberg by the time you get it there. You ain't going to have it. What is happening? What is happening with the Recon over here? Recon's bugging. Says the plane's over here. It's actually over here. Recon is bugging. Let's see here. Yeah, and true with that too. We really don't need any more icebergs melting. So, yeah, if you guys have enjoyed the hypotheticals of what if, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the stream with your family, and friends. Help spread weather awareness. If you have any more questions, even if they're hypotheticals of what ifs, put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them. This is the last live stream, probably till Sunday evening, because I'm gonna go spend a bunch of time with family, because I haven't been able to, and we're gonna do a lot of stuff tomorrow, and I will be live on the gaming channel, TRG Gaming. You can find that either, you can go to the homepage here on this channel, and you can find it in the featured channels, TRG Gaming. I will be live Saturday. I'll be live Saturday on there for a NASCAR race, Daytona, nighttime Daytona. That's going to be a blast. And then obviously I'll be watching Daytona Friday too. So, and then like I said, so family tomorrow, family and race Friday, stream and race Saturday, and then I'll stream back on the Weather Channel here on Sunday evening, sometime Sunday evening. I'll be live probably about 7 Legacy Saturday, I think. Maybe a little after 7. Let me go check. Yeah, probably about 7 Eastern. Eastern. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so yeah, that's really all the information. If you need the newest information, the only thing that's changed in the last hour has been this thing, the millibar decreased by 2. That's it. So if you need the latest information, you could just rewind the stream all the way to when we started. The first 30 minutes was definitely the most informative, as it normally is, because that's when I'm talking about the main stuff. And if you need any official information very quickly, go to the National Hurricane Center or your local National Weather Service. That is the best place to find it. How come hurricanes don't hit the West Coast more often? Um, because our jet stream. Typically, hurricanes here in the Eastern Pacific form here, and they go this way or this way. If they go up here, they don't form far enough north up this area. Also, typically we have more wind shear and cooler temperatures further up to the west coast too, so it's not as favorable. And you have almost all the time you have big troughs swinging in this way. You have your strong jet stream here, subtropical jet stream here, so it's generally not favorable for hurricanes or tropical storms anywhere north of about here. Anywhere north of about here, it's just typically not that favorable. We did have a hurricane like out here this year, north of Honolulu, north of Hawaii, and that was quite the sight to see. You don't see that too often. Did see this tornado warning up here in Canada. Lord have mercy. That's the strongest air of rotation I've seen in a month. And it's from Canada. Look at that sucker. Now that is a supercell. Wow, that is about the best looking Canada supercell I've seen. Look at that. That's likely a strong tornado. Oh, they canceled the tornado watch? Look at that. They canceled the tornado watch too. And this is, even if the tornado watch was still in effect, I'm pretty sure this is well removed from the tornado watch. I can't say if that is CC or not from a tornado, but it's probably a tornado on the ground. And that thing is classic. Classic eagle split supercell. You have your RFD coming around this way, forward flank downdraft this way, your inflow in here. Hail core, just barely north of that hail spike. Classic hook echo right there, and yeah, I mean, likely a tornado. If it's not a tornado, it is a very, very strong area of rotation, very close to dropping a tornado. And that is up in Saskatchewan, Canada. Up in Saskatchewan, Canada. There may be I know like 2 Canadian chasers. One of them is my friend out there in Ontario. And there may be... I don't know if he's out chasing today. I have no idea. Yep, Nightbot is stupid sometimes. I'm not going to take offense to that. I'll insult it too. You're stupid, Nightbot. I have no idea about cams. I'm not one who covers Canada often at all. All I know from a radar standpoint is that is a classic supercell. That's all I know. And that it's probably producing, if not about to produce, a tornado. Because, man, that thing's classic. That's something you see in April, May in the plains here in the U.S. I haven't seen supercells in Canada like that too often. I've seen a couple, but it's just not often, like once a month type ordeal. I just looked up Canada storm chasers and it brought up people covering Erin. Yep, that's about that about sums it up right there. That about sums it up. Not a lot of people are going to be covering Canada. It's not as easy to cover, and as easy to forecast as, with the tools and technology we have here in the US, but they've been improving their radars, and I just don't know a lot of sites as well, so they could have better resources I'm just not aware of. But at least they're improving their radars, so they're trying to make some improvements. It's just here in the U.S. we have so many more tornadoes and more severe weather, so we have a lot more things to forecast the weather, just because we get so much more tornadoes and severe storms, and I don't even think it's remotely close to other countries in terms of how much severe weather we get. We're in the perfect spot. We got cold air from Canada, causes cold fronts, brings troughs, subtropical jet stream. We've got the Gulf's moisture, and you've got the Rockies that also help provide an EML. So perfect place. All tornado ingredients come together in this area in the middle of the year. Perfect place. So that's going to do it for this live stream, y'all. Like I said, probably next live stream won't be till Sunday evening, because I'm going to go spend a bunch of time with family, since I've been doing a lot of covers recently and a lot of streams here on the channel. So just a little break, and then I'll be right back, obviously, starting back up. I'm going to have to get a video out definitely next week, because we haven't done a video in a while, because we switched to a daily live stream. So I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys sometime Sunday evening. Remember, once the music starts, we have about 3 minutes, and then the stream will end. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share this channel with your family, friends, social media, and subscribe with the notification bell set to all, so you know when I go live sometime on Sunday. And if you are in the Outer Banks and you haven't evacuated, please stay hyper-weather aware. Please stay very safe. And if you were told to evacuate, I hope you did evacuate, because storm surge and flash flooding is definitely very significant due to those high waves. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday and your Thursday and your Friday and your Saturday. And again, I will be live on Saturday on the gaming channel, TRG Gaming. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Watch for your weather in the tropics. Goodbye. Stay safe. Thank you, mods, for mod chat, and everyone have a great rest of your night. Stay safe, watch severe weather.